Welcome to the Light Reading Podcast, the Notebook Dump Edition. This is where we talk about the stories that stood out to us during the week and whatever other silly stuff we want to talk about as well. My name is Phil Harvey. I am an editor here at Light Reading.
My name is Nicole Ferraro. I am also an editor here at Light Reading.
I'm Kelsey Ziser, and I am also an editor at Light Reading.
And I'm Mike Dano, Jedi Knight in training.
Wow.
Sweet.
Much better title.
That's what's up.
Yep. Yeah, indeed.
Mike the Mandalorian Dano.
Let's see. Okay, who wants to dive in first? The one thing that I will just quickly mention, one thing that stuck out to me in general is there seems to be a lot of broadband one-upmanship going on among the various carrier and cable CEOs. So I'll just read, not read the headlines exactly, but earlier this week and then just going into last week, fixed wireless was not good enough for the long term. That's what AT&T CFO said. DOCSIS 4 upgrades should be reasonably priced and reasonably costed and all that stuff. Costed? What a dumb thing. CEO of
Not costed.
The CFO of Charter said that. CEO of Charter kind of doubled down on it and said that it was a better idea to do network upgrades than to build out with fiber. Frontier CEO said that surprisingly that they're not threatened at all by fixed wireless or DOCSIS 4, and fiber upgrades are the right thing to do, and that's by the CEO of Altice USA. So there we go. Everybody's doubling down on whatever network choice they made.
Indeed. Well, if I can chime in as the broadband broad, as everyone knows me and refers to me, it's not just something I'm trying to get to catch on. No. It's something everyone already says.
Trademarked.
The broadband broad, I was going to bring to this notebook dump. I thought Kelsey said we had to bring actual notebooks.
It adds to the authenticity.
Indeed. Yes. So I'm working on a story. It will be up by the time we publish this video, so I'm not scooping myself here, but one fight over broadband that is sort of indicative of something that's happening across the country and is going to happen a lot more as the BEAD funds get handed down in the coming years. One fight's happening in Louisiana, and we can zero in on East Carroll Parish, which is a persistent poverty county, where Cable One / Sparklight in that region is challenging a $4 million grant that was awarded to Connexon to build out broadband to several hundred homes in that region. They were awarded the grant in July, and Cable One / Sparklight brought their protest after the grant was awarded rather than during the application process, which is something that Louisiana allows for in its rules for its funding program. So I've spoken with all of the parties involved, and as of this morning, Cable One says that they are going to persist with their protest, even though Connexon is claiming that their data is inconsistent that they're presenting for their challenge, and even though the community itself has gone door to door to collect speed test data and worked with Connexon on this grant application and is saying that Sparklight isn't serving them. So the bigger picture here is about incumbents launching challenges to these grant programs as they're awarding these smaller providers and these upstarts. It's something we're seeing happening in different ways, but it's something that states should keep in mind as they're writing their broadband programs, to the extent that they have the ability to, depending on how much their actual state legislature sets the parameters for how those funding programs are carried out.
So whatever they say to investors, incumbent carriers are always going to be both the largest providers of broadband, but also the largest obstacles of broadband.
Pretty much, yeah.
Well, that tracks historically, so
yeah.
Why should anything change? It's interesting, though, that they're using the methodology of challenging the grant. So basically, if they can argue taking the money away or preventing the money from going to a competitive carrier or a competitive entity.
Well, it's also interesting because their argument is that they already serve the region, but the rules, and Cable One said this specifically, that the rules in the grant program say that you just have to be serving it with 25.3. So they might be offering 25.3 service, but the residents are not saying they're getting, the service they need, and they can't afford the service that's being offered to them. So, all of this over a $4 million grant seems a little suspicious. Cable One also argues that AT&T also services that region, so they're the smaller guy in this equation, comparatively speaking. So
we're probably going to see more of that as the months go on and more BEAD funding gets, or more BEAD funding recipients get out there.
Yeah, broadly, Phil, I think what I think is interesting here is just that we are seeing what I would say is a pretty surprising amount of competition nationwide. I know we've been talking about digital divide, and there's all this money that's being pumped into the rural places that don't necessarily have a lot of providers. But I think if you step back and just look at not necessarily rural locations, but sort of suburban locations, like the number of options for internet service is noticeably larger now than just a few years ago. So we've got Starlink beaming internet from space, 500, almost 500,000 customers on that. We've got T-Mobile with fixed wireless, more than 1 million customers already. T-Mobile is depending on how you count it, it's the 7th or 9th largest ISP in the country now. T-Mobile is. Verizon, has more than 500,000 customers on their fixed wireless service in places all over the country. And, just today we published a story about AT&T building a fiber network in Phoenix where it does not have any. That is a new market for AT&T. It does not have any copper footprint there. So here's, Phoenix, Arizona, with a third, pretty fast internet provider. And so and plus all this, government funding hasn't even really hit the market yet. And here we were already having some serious competition from a lot of different technologies coming into some of these markets that, may have only, 1 or 2 providers. I'm surprised at the pace.
Yeah. And I'm encouraged by the number of out of network builds and things like that. But I think that, before the funding hits in a lot of places, I think, announcing your intention to, serve a market or go into a new network is actually, or go into a new territory is a smart thing to do, because it sort of puts you in the game for that funding. And in AT&T's case, this is significant because historically they've really only followed their, like your story says, their copper footprint and their kind of traditional telco outline. And the only time that's ever expanded in history has been, when they've done strategic acquisitions. So for them to just build new fiber in an area that they don't reach. Now they did do a little bit of fiber building, adjacent to other areas at some time in their past, I think when they were really pushing pay TV and stuff like that. But in general, they've never really done that explicitly to serve more broadband customers. So you're right. This is both new. It's worth watching, and I think ahead of all this funding getting in, this will be an interesting strategic sort of positioning for them, because I do suspect that other providers are going to follow suit and start jumping outside of their territory to see where else they can compete, and then knowing that maybe there's some financial help along the way. Okay, let's see. Let's move it along. Kelsey, Mike, what else jumped out to you this week? What else is in your notebook, Kelsey? I know you have a notebook.
Yes, I do. I have several notebooks. Recently I spoke with this startup called Graphiant, and hopefully I'm saying that right. It could be Graphiant. Graphone. No, I think it's Graphiant.
Let's just do a podcast where you pronounce it as many ways as you can.
Yeah, I was trying to think of other places that put the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable. But it's headed up by Khalid Raza, who was one of the co-founders of Viptela, which was one of the initial SD-WAN providers that was acquired by Cisco. And so he's branching out again. He and his team, most of them moved over to Cisco for a couple years, and now they're starting a new venture, and they have about $33.5 million in Series A funding that they got in 2020. And the idea is, I spoke with Andrew Lerner at Gartner, and it's kind of SD-WAN for more edge capabilities. And the idea is it's similar to a Cato or Ariaka, where they have their own private network, and then they're offering SD-WAN services through that, so that customers aren't worrying about tunneling in on their own, I suppose. They've got that own private network, and they also have some initial security partners, and they're going to be building that out as well in the future. So be interesting to see what their approach is. They're touting it as an alternative to SD-WAN and MPLS, but Andrew was saying it's SD-WAN, but backed by a private backbone.
Yeah, I think the next evolution of SD-WAN is going to be this network as a service space. It does seem like there's a ton of companies that are taking a position there. It does seem like that even the SD-WAN companies are kind of becoming, an all-in-one solution especially for enterprises, to just sort of say, here's every networking service you could need. All you need to do is either install us at the edge or, become a customer in some ways. And then some of these network as a service companies are just saying, just connect to us in some way, and we will make sure that your traffic goes where it's supposed to go. Security is applied, analytics are applied. You can guarantee, we'll make sure that you can guarantee connections, for your customers from here to there. It's all very much, a software driven push, because the only way to do this in the past had been a kind of a nailed up network connection like MPLS or something that was more static. So this is very, very interesting because a bunch of different types of companies are getting involved, and they all have a slightly different spin on it. So yeah, we'll watch that space, and someday I'll learn to pronounce Graphiant.
I think it's Graphiant.
Oh, very good. You said that so authoritatively.
No, I'm right. I'm definitely right.
Good. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mike, anything from you?
I want Nicole to just be right all the time.
No, I'm right.
She's right. It's my favorite.
It's confirmed.
I wanted to show you. So before I say, I actually have a reporter's notebook. It's actually a physical notebook that says reporter's notebook on it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to take this.
So much.
You can hear it.
And it has news on the front. Yeah. So
I think we're done here.
In case you thought it was, Heathcliff comic strips or something, it's actually news. Yeah.
It does. It says what it is. It's a reporter's notebook, and it says it on it. And I'm going to be. I actually have a bunch of them now, and when I take them to shows, I'm embarrassed to take them out because they.
Did your mommy give you?
Nicole said it. She's right. My mom did give it to me.
Oh, Mama Dano.
Would love to interview you, Mr. CEO. Hold on. Let me get my thermos from my reporter's lunchbox over here.
And so inside my reporter's notebook is
Nothing.
will be some notes from the Mobile World Congress trade show. I think several of us are planning to head to Las Vegas this year at the end of the month. And so I've been putting my schedule together, and I don't have a whole lot of takeaways yet, just from what I've seen so far. I did get a bunch of meeting invitations earlier in the last couple of weeks. But in looking through the show schedule, it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of interesting stuff going on. And there's a couple of interesting keynote speakers, but there's no CEOs from Ericsson or Verizon. None of those guys are coming. They're not on the show schedule. And I've been doing some surveys of like, hey, are you going to be at the show? Are you going to be at the show? And I've gotten a lot of responses of, no, I'm not going to be at the show, or no, our company is not attending in a formal way, and we don't have anyone for you to interview. And so, we'll see how it goes this year. It's sort of one of the bigger trade shows that we're going to go to after the pandemic and stuff, and so we'll kind of see how it goes. But right now, I'm excited to go. I think it will be good. I do have a couple of interesting meetings that I've scheduled, and there are a couple of interesting things I think on the schedule that I'm excited about. There's a whole session about stuff from space, so they're going to have SpaceX and OneWeb and some other speakers from companies like that. So that's an interesting topic. They also have another Open RAN session that I think looks pretty good. I'm excited to attend that. But I'm coming away somewhat excited, but I'm kind of I'm my expectations for that show are fairly low at this point from what I've seen so far.
Well, let's see how you do at the blackjack table. You're right about the trade show. I think there's sort of a little bit of a trade show exhaustion coming in because there's a bunch of trade shows like CCA, Mobile World Congress, SCTE. They're all happening within a couple of weeks of one another, and that usually hasn't been the case. They've usually been fairly spaced out. So I think maybe that's part of it too, is that companies can only, especially with logistics being the way they are, and people taking health risks and stuff. I think people are being a bit more picky about what shows they go to, especially if they're all kind of jammed into the calendar together. So it'll be interesting to see. Mobile World Congress Americas, as it used to be called, is usually the big North American trade show, but we'll see what happens. Any other things that maybe non-story related or otherwise that are in your notebooks or that you ran across this week? I can offer up one thing. Did you guys know that ceiling fans could kill your Wi-Fi connection?
Well, no. What?
That was an observation and maybe an argument that started on LinkedIn. I saw a LinkedIn post from an engineer who said that his metal ceiling fan was absolutely killing his Wi-Fi connection, and he had some proof for that. And I'm not exactly sure what the physics are, to do there. He seemed to discuss it at length in the post, which I'll link to in the show notes. And some people, also gave their anecdotal evidence, which is empirical. They were like, well, I have good Wi-Fi, therefore you're wrong. And so I love the internet.
Yeah.
It's just, so anyway, it's something to think about, I guess, if you're going to put a ceiling fan near a router, in case that was a worry.
We actually are about to put in like 4 new ceiling fans. So
oh God,
I need to read up on this.
Yeah.
I guess.
Maybe. I don't know.
or not.
Yeah.
Maybe it only happened to that one guy that one time, and he wrote a LinkedIn post about it. But somehow or another, enough people I know commented on it or liked it or whatever, and then it showed up in my feed, so I wanted to share it.
Wow. I have something else that I want to mention, which is all right. So since we're talking about notebook dumps, and I have a rant that if any PR people are listening right now, I want you to hear this. That if you send me a press release that is embargoed and I do not agree to an embargo prior to receiving that email, it's not embargoed. You can't send it to me and then assume I'm going to embargo it. That's not how it works. First, you agree to an embargo, then you receive the embargoed material. So if you're in the PR field and listening to this right now, that's how the exchange works. And if it's done outside of that agreement, then it's not embargoed. It's not embargoed. My pet peeve.
Then Mike's going to print off the press release and burn it.
I am. I'm going to put it in my reporter's notebook, and I'm going to show it to everyone.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's
I didn't agree to this.
It's true. There is a lot of one-way embargoing
of everyone in my building.
There is a lot of one-way embargoing going on out there, and most people have been kind of I would say, especially lately, they've been very lax about it. They've just been saying like, "Oh, this is embargoed till next week," and then they've just fired it off with no previous communication. And also, no offense, agencies, I don't know any of you. It's so different if it's somebody I've actually spoken to or met face to face or whatever. But if it's just coming from some rando guy in a giant agency, I just don't. Yeah, I'm kind of like you, Mike. I don't really have any inclination to honor that embargo.
Yeah, dislike it.
All right.
I didn't come prepared to like lay down the law for the industry. I thought we were just doing a quick notebook dump, but I'll come more fired up next time.
Yeah, another thing, soap from hotels lasts a really long time, and the soap from the store doesn't. So if I could just buy the hotel soap instead of the soap from the store.
I think for that you have to steal a bunch of it. Isn't that the whole game? You put as much in your suitcase as you can carry.
That's crazy. Like,
isn't that why you're going to all these trade shows?
Yeah, for the soap.
Yeah, that's the only reason I agreed to go to this cable show next week.
Yeah,
I'm out of soap.
It's certainly
my friend knows I'm like
breakfast.
I'm such a klepto about the hotel stuff that my friend brings back the soap from her trips for me.
And her name and social security number is
411.
So you just admitted to a soap ring, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. That's
and that's why people tune into the notebook.
The dirty business laundering of soap on the next whatever investigative podcast we decide to launch. I don't know. I don't have a title yet.
Files.
Yeah. We'll come up with something. All right. I think we should wrap it up. I think we should stop right there.
I think that's obvious.
Is everyone ready to do our super cute outro?
Hold on. Let me check and make sure I have my lines pulled up.
Please.
Yep,
yes.
Here we go.
All right. Here we go.
Okay. I'm good.
It's good.
I'm good.
It's happening now.
3, 2, 1.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for watching.
Have a great weekend.
We did it. Oh, sorry. That wasn't on the thing. Oh, darn it.
I don't think Nicole really wants anyone to have a great weekend.
I want everyone to have a great weekend. I just don't. I think like by the time this is published, like 400 calamities could happen in the world at large. And then it's embarrassing that I said, have a great weekend. You know?
You're way too positive.
What a, yeah. Wow. Thanks. Thank you, Sunshine. Appreciate it.
Leave me alone.
All right. That's enough.